Hello, and this is Diane. Welcome to another episode of Biters, and I am joined by Brian.
Your zombified 30-something. Trying to be all fancy, and I just spit in the microphone, so we're done with that crap.
That's so funny. You're starting to pass the zombie virus.
Yeah, apparently.
So how are you this week?
We've both had things going on. We're doing a little late night Tuesday recording for reasonable causes. And you know what? I'm hungry. I'm hungry for some meat and potatoes in my Walking Dead.
And I think that we both agree that we're not quite there this week.
Yeah. So just to kind of recap, I get it. I understand where these things need to happen, how Negan needs to be introduced through all this stuff, and it was cool, but I want to get to it. I want to get it, and I want to get this going now.
So let's just jump right into our ratings of Not Untie, which is what this episode was called.
Yeah.
How did you rate it?
I would rate this 3 abdominal stab wounds out of 5.
So I give it 3.5 firecrackers in a trash barrel out of 5.
Ah.
So we were pretty close.
Yeah, I just wanted more. I wanted more.
Well, and I think I was listening to a podcast earlier today. I'm not going to say which podcast, but they were talking about how they expected the hilltop to be bigger in the reveal, and I think there's some truth to that. It just wasn't quite as astonishing as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I was expecting more of a city type, but they had a little colony there, and I think they explained it out well enough that this was a living history farm, so everything's just kind of here,
Yeah, kind of the reason that people congregated there.
Right. So, I mean, they explained out the size of it pretty well and made it understand because, there's lots of other groups out there that we trade with and do business with, but, everyone stayed kind of as their own. So that would explain like, oh, okay, that's why not everyone's, together in a 250 person place. Everyone keeps to themselves like a town and just does business.
I think that was striking information for our survivors.
Yeah, thinking you're the only ones out there, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of other places that you trade with and do business with? What the hell is this?
Yeah.
And then hold on a second. Then you gotta look at Aaron and Heath and these guys and be like, how have you idiots not found any of these places?
Or how have they kept it quiet if they did? Or why would they keep it quiet if they did? That's a good point.
But then on the other side, it took them a day to drive there. So
there is that.
If you're thinking in the grand scheme of the world, United States, the state of Iowa, it's going to take you 6 hours to drive across. So, and that's on the main interstate doing 75 miles an hour.
And I don't know the geography of Georgia well enough to know, like, how far that would get them on back roads and where it would put them.
Yeah, so, even if you're 2 counties away, you would never know there's another group 2 counties away unless you literally stumbled across them.
That's a good point.
Because there's no city lights, there's no fireworks, there's no, stuff like that. So, anyways, what do we got? Who's the director here?
Okay, so before we head into that, I just want to get people up to snuff on the numbers from last week. So last week was our episode called The Next World, and I think the big news is that The Walking Dead is still on top of the ratings for Sunday night, which is pretty impressive. It was 13.48 million viewers on the original night, and then in Live Plus 3, it was 18.7 million.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they're still on top in terms of the 18 to 49 age bracket.
Perfect.
So, but, we were up against the Oscars this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see if that made a difference. I know I'm not into stuff like that, so I don't really care. but I know a lot of people who are. So it'll be really interesting to compare the live and live plus three.
Do you know anybody who has Oscar parties? Like, I got this one group of people that I'm not saying names or anything, but not really my friends. It's like friends of friends. And they have like Oscar parties and they all dress up in like tuxes and gowns and they all have like fancy food and they all like take bets on like who's going to win what category. I'm just like, man, y'all need to get some whiskey and some cards and then let's have a party.
I am not even sure, quite honestly, where I would buy a fancy gown unless I was competing with one of the girls who was getting ready for prom.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple of friends who live in Anchorage, which is Alaska's biggest city, who might do that sort of thing, but I'm not even sure that they do.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. So let's see. Our authors were Matthew Negrete. We've talked about him before. He co-authored with Elizabeth Channing Powell, who goes by Channing Powell, and we talked about her before. So really, the only thing to say is they both have a fair number of credits, especially in TV. He has 8 Walking Dead episodes to his credit. She's got 6.
Good.
And then the director is someone we're familiar with, Michael Satrazemis.
Mm-hmm.
He has tons of credits, a lot of camera and like cinematography work, and then he's got 6 Walking Dead credits as a director. So they're familiar names. They're people that we know.
Good. Well, and that's, it was an episode that had a lot of moving parts.
I think that's fair.
And it had to be set up delicately. But I'm not sure if that we achieved that. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, and now,
that.
yeah, I mean, looking back and just even in the ratings that you and I gave this episode, it does make me kind of question how 3 people who have written and directed in this world a lot had more of a miss than a hit.
Well, but they also have to follow the storyline, the overarching, the show running plot, and
right,
they
have to move the story forward
right
the way the showrunner wants it to be. So, what did you think of the title, Knots Untie?
Knots Untie.
Because I actually had quite a bit.
Well, I think it was just a reference to Jesus.
Sure, that was obvious. I mean, he made that reference to his escape.
Yeah, and I really think that's the main reference, but then the hidden messages, meanings, is about how the world is really just starting to come unraveled.
I think you're right.
Hilltop, here's these people, and we're here, and then these strangers show up, and then all hell breaks loose, and then things happen, which we'll talk about later, but I think it's their worlds are starting to come unraveled. And instead of these little pieces of rope tied into knots, once you untie all the knots, you have this giant spool of rope now.
It's just spaghetti.
Yeah, so it's just everything is just loose now, and things are just kind of going all over. It wasn't a nice and tight world like they had imagined it to be.
So I have in my notes that there was an unraveling of expectations or the presupposed ideas of our group, which we mentioned, just that whole idea that, there is this great big world out there that we really didn't realize. The other thing that I thought was really significant was that I kind of felt like it was the undoing of Abe's relationship with Rosita. So those knots are beginning to untie.
Sure.
And then I actually kind of felt, at least on Maggie and Glenn's part, that the knots that untied were actually tension, that there was some unraveling of tension for them because they found Harlan, the doctor who actually is an OBGYN.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And they finished the episode with a picture from the sonogram of the baby.
Yeah, which they did have on The Talking Dead, I think.
Oh, I'm so bummed I missed The Talking Dead because I was just getting back into town. So
it wasn't that. So, all right, let me just say this about The Talking Dead. I hate it when they just have a celebrity who does not prepare to be on The Talking Dead. The cast members, directors, showrunners, they don't have to prepare to be on that show because they've lived it, so they know what they're going to talk about. But when a guest comes on who has nothing to do with the show, you need to prepare. And this just drives me nuts. So they had he was a rapper and producer, but it was a friend of Yvette Nicole Brown, which she's great on The Talking Dead, but she's kind of worn out her welcome for me on The Talking Dead. But it's just like, oh yeah, he said it on Twitter and it's her friend and she made the connection. Here he is. But he was terrible. He added zero value to that TV program and often got in the way of good discussion because you had Jesus and Maggie. And it's like, these are two people that I want to hear talk right now.
Right. And you want to hear something smart. I mean, if there's a guest who is not part of the show, you want that person to be passionate about the show and to have some good observations.
Yeah, and it was just like, so what did you think about, Rick doing this and that? Oh, he was just like, man, and he just like got all up in it, and then like Michonne was like protecting him, like, no, that's my man, that was just awesome. And it's just like, no. I have that same discussion at work every Monday morning. That is not, it's like, that is not what I want. I'm giving you my time. I want to hear these people talk who have been involved and can provide character insight or production insight or giving me value to the program beyond. And it's just dumbing it down, which Marilyn Manson is still the absolute worst.
Okay, I have a total girl question for you.
Yes.
So I did catch a glimpse of it and then I turned it off because I didn't want to be spoiled since I knew I wasn't going to be able to watch the episode. Did Lauren Cohan explain the hair?
The hair?
Her hair is like super short.
Oh, so it's funny. My wife does not watch Walking Dead at all. It gives her nightmares. She can't do it. She was like, is that Maggie? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, she does not look like what she does in the show. I'm like, I honestly would walk right by her on the street because I think she's so much more beautiful outside of the character Maggie as Lauren.
Oh, that's funny.
And like, I would just completely not, I mean, I wouldn't blow by her, but I would not make that connection that is Maggie. I would not.
She looks really different with the short hair. I mean, it's, again, this is totally a girl thing. It's a cute cut, but I just wonder, I just think there's got to be something bigger. And I know that, not to get too bogged down in the comic books, she does have very short hair in the whole Alexandria arc. So I'm wondering if it plays into something related to the arc.
I thought she's always had short hair, though.
Well, she did at the beginning when she was introduced. It was kind of a short little bob, but never more this boyish cut. I'll have to go back and look at the old comic books and see what her hair was like when she was first introduced. But her hair looks now like it does throughout most of the Alexandria arc. So, I don't know. Goofy, totally a one-off question, but I was just wondering if she explained that at all or not.
No, I don't remember it. I actually turned off the last 15 minutes because I was tired of it.
Yeah. That's a bummer because, I tune into that show because I really like the conversation too. So it's disappointing when it's not good.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, Jesus on there. Like, I want to hear this guy talk. Right. And he had some good stuff about like the fight scene and stuff, but it was dead and it was very aggravating. So anyways, who's your epic? What's your epic?
Well, so it's not a huge epic, but I have to say the scene where Rick turns around and his face is totally covered. You too? Yes. His face is so covered in blood and he just looks at everybody and says, what?
Like that was the LOL moment of the episode because it was just like the juxtaposition. You cannot get a better statement of who Rick Grimes is than that.
Exactly. And who Rick Grimes is now as compared to who Rick Grimes was.
Right.
Yes.
Like, he's up there. Michonne distracts the guy. Boom, knife in the throat. It's dumping the jugular all over his face. And he just kind of turns and kind of closes his eyes, but still is twisting the knife in the guy's neck. And he gets off, stands up. He's just covered in blood, and like everyone's just like stunned. And he, what? Like,
and it was funny looking at not the Alexandrians, the people from Hilltop, because they were just so shocked.
like this dude just killed somebody. So that was one part from the Talking Dead that Jesus talked about. He goes, they're like, describe that moment. And it's such a big deal to the Hilltop town because of who that guy was. Is he was one of the strongest people in that community.
Oh.
And Rick just cut his throat.
Right, Rick just took him down.
And that's what really put Hilltop on their heels of like, this was our biggest badass. And Rick just cut his throat open and just bathed in his blood.
Okay, the thing that's really a bummer is I would not have picked that up from just the episode. I mean, I picked up that they were shocked and horrified, but I thought it was more like the whole idea of just the spilling of the blood, not because Rick had somehow suddenly disabled one of their biggest badasses, you know?
Yep. He just slaughtered him. So I love that part. Like, that was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. I love it.
That was
this
really
scene.
classic.
Well, that was quick. So,
I did have one more little note in my epics, and I thought it was really funny that Jesus was the peacemaker, because I keep getting thrown off when they're like, Jesus, you're back.
Yeah.
Oh, we're with Jesus. And I'm like, this is just too weird. And then to have him be the peacemaker in that scene, for me, was just really funny.
Sure. So it was cool, but it's telling of who his character is in the community. That he is really the leader of the community.
I agree. He even says it, that, what's his face? Gregory isn't the leader that he would have chosen.
Yeah. I mean, he knows he controls everything. He knows he gets stuff done. And that's why everybody does what he says. And you take it back to when they're first entering it. And Rick's like, we're giving up the guns, bring him down here. So he's like, no. I am letting you keep your guns. They aren't.
Right.
I'm letting you keep your guns.
And I do think that and I think this is going to evolve more as we see more of Hilltop, but he really is the balance in Hilltop. Yeah. He's really the person who keeps everything balanced between Gregory and everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely did not like that guy. And I love, Rick had some good lines. He's like, Maggie, you're up. And he's like, what? Yeah. Why? He's like, I can't talk to this guy.
Yeah,
because
that was good. So what's your fail?
My fail is Carol and Morgan absences.
Ah, okay.
So I took a step back from the episode and said, what's really aggravating here? This Carol and Morgan storyline was so huge, and he knocked her out. And all of this progressed, and then just blunk, stopped. Why at some point did we not have, and this will go into my epic fail, is why did we not have some kind of jumps back to the community to find out what's going on back there? You know?
Well, and your good point, I mean, it's all a good point, but the thing that really sticks out for me is not only do we not get an answer, but here we go again. We've had our 2-month time jump, and just like there was apparently no discussion of Negan, although they reveal a little later in this episode that there must have been a tiny bit of conversation around Negan. There's no real discussion or resolution of that. And you're right, to leave something as big as that alone for 2 months is a big deal.
Yeah, it's just like, wait a second. Like, there are so many things here that I need answered. But like you did say, they did kind of touch, well, hey, we heard the word Negan, you know. We kind of ran into some of his people, and they must have just dismissed it as, well, we ran into some people, we've never seen him before, we've never seen him again, so who knows?
But I guess the other thing is, and this kind of goes to your point as well, so I'm thinking about Daryl's run-in with that couple who escaped Negan and who stole his bike and who stole his crossbow. And I'm thinking, how come they're not starting to put the pieces together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the saviors. And he's like, oh, wait, that was the people, which we're still going to see them at some point, getting his crossbow and his motorcycle back.
Right. I mean, it's not like they just had this one off where they ran into this motorcycle crew. They actually had a number of different areas where they ran into people that you'd think they would have put those things a little more in context, I guess.
Sure. So what's yours?
Well, mine was that they put all of their biggest, baddest people from Alexandria into one mission, into one rig, and it just seemed like such a big risk,
I told
you
you we got
know?
to start tying up these loose ends.
But I'm thinking to myself, okay, so this RV now has essentially all of their firepower in it because we don't really know what's going on with Carol and Morgan, and Carl is saying he's going to hold down the fort.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is I mean, it was demonstrated by the RV getting stuck, even though it turned out it was conveniently stuck in the right location. But I was also thinking, with one vehicle, there's no chance of escape. If you at least spread all of your people out in a number of different rigs, you've got a better chance that at least some of them are going to escape if something goes bad.
Sure.
So my fail was just really putting all of your eggs into one basket.
No, that's very understanding. And I agree. I seen it, and my thought was, oh, yeah, we're going to get some deaths, like I called it. Bold predictions. Here we go.
Right.
Thinking, yep, this is going to happen, which, by the way, we'll get it to Rotten Potpourri. Yes, Brian did have another bold prediction come true tonight.
I missed it this time, so I'm looking forward to it.
It was just that thing, like, here we go, we're going to get some deaths.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it is.
They're all here, and I was looking forward to it. So my other minor fail was, what does Father Gabriel think of this guy named Jesus?
That's a good one. I don't know. And you would think he introduced himself by his other name, which I think was Paul, right?
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting that everyone has immediately taken to calling him Jesus.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun, like you said, the whole joke, and, we're with Jesus, and,
Right.
Jesus, you've returned.
Right. It's just a little awkward and off-putting, though,
I agree. So we're kind of cruising through these. What is your epic fail?
So my epic is what you and I talked about before we logged in tonight, which is that I just didn't like how it ended. It felt really truncated. It felt really cut off. And I don't feel like they really I don't feel like they really gave us a lot to look forward to. I don't feel like they really wrapped anything up. I just feel like we're in that same rig just riding through the dusty road and we have no idea where we're going or what we're doing.
No, and you make a good point. It just kind of stopped, and I'm that guy where I've said it before. That clock is killer, man. Because I'm sitting here watching the episode, and I keep looking down at my clock. I'm like, we've only got 10 minutes left. No one's gonna die.
Right. What on earth are they going to do in that 10 minutes that's valuable?
Yeah. So, it was just kind of chugging. So my epic fail was the trap timeline of we're all in this RV, we're cruising, car accident, here's this, handcuff Jesus, here we go, and now we're going into this building, and they clean swept maybe 6 walkers,
Right.
and that was it. But they never really clarified how the accident happened. Obviously, it was Negan's crew who
Right.
did it because these 4 or 5 people are hiding from 6 walkers spread out in this house, and they can't kill these walkers. I mean, you've been alive for 3-4 years now in the zompocalypse, and you can't take care of them. So it just kind of felt really just kind of out of place, and I think they could have found these people a little bit differently. maybe, where they might have seen a car wrecking that other car, and then they see that other car drive away, and he's like, oh crap, that's my people. So they actually see the accident happen.
I think that might have had more dramatic impact, actually. No pun intended.
Because Jesus was like, even at the car wreck, he's like, oh, these are my people. Oh, well, we better go in this house. Instead of
So
like,
here's some. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, instead of like, oh my God, Stephanie, no. Oh, and then he's like putting his people out of their misery, you know? But
So here's something I don't get, and maybe you can explain to me. I wasn't entirely sure that those walkers weren't planted, the ones in the car. I wasn't entirely sure that they were actually part of his crew and that he didn't just recognize the car. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I mean, it just seems like I don't know what the time frame for the accident was, but it seems like if those walkers were people who were killed in that accident, they turned really fast.
yeah. And it felt like a trap. And I think that's why everybody thought it was a trap. And
Hmm.
it just, I think we could have rescued them a little bit differently, but who knows? Which kind of goes back to our whole thing that we talked about, or I talked about with you earlier, is that this really just felt they were trying to cram a lot of foundational material into this episode
Hmm.
and had to get there some way, somehow, and they just decided it's all going to happen right now. And we're just going to slam it all in here so that way we can get the hunt for Negan.
So there is definitely something in my rotting potpourri, if we're going there next,
Yep, let's hit it.
that plays right into that, which is that although I understand that we have seen some stuff where Deanna was grooming Maggie to have more of a leadership role, I felt like it was, even though the line from Rick was really funny, I felt like it was really premature and kind of odd and rushing things to suddenly shove Maggie into a leadership role.
So that was my bold prediction, was that Maggie is going to be the the matriarch or patriarch? Which one?
Matriarch.
Matriarch. She is
Yeah.
the matriarch now.
Yeah, of Hilltop. She's going to be the matriarch of Hilltop. I agree.
Yeah, she has been anointed as as Alexandria's new queen, so to speak,
Hmm.
and or the governess, however you want to say it. She is now the alpha female. I am in charge.
Which,
I make the decisions, and it's like, yeah, I knew this was coming, but I agree. It was just Rick's like, nope, you're doing this. Here you go. Which I thought it would be more of, no, Rick, let me talk to him. You can't handle this.
and so we have talked about how sometimes it feels like they're rushing to get us through the source material. And I definitely felt like that was really true with Maggie, that they were rushing and pushing to get her into that role that does eventually happen in the source material.
Yes. So just full disclaimer that we won't go too far into the comics here.
Right.
I have zero comics experience from here on out. I stopped just because I felt it was ruining what was coming in the show, and that's why we won't go too far. But um, we all kind of know what's coming, and it just felt like they just had to mash all this right down our throats real quick to get this up to speed.
Yeah, I agree.
So, question then for you, I need this answered from the comic books.
I may or may not have it have a recollection for it, but I'll try.
Does Negan show up, or do they go hunt Negan down like they are on the TV show?
No, Negan shows up. They
Okay.
actually run into him, I'm pretty sure, while they're on a run.
So
And he appears out of nowhere.
this might be the hard left then that Scott Gimple was talking about.
It certainly seems odd that they are all of a sudden hunting him down.
Yeah. So that was also that's good. That's refreshing that they're actually going on the run. And I like that I want to raise the BS flag on Daryl when they were talking at the end, like, no, we'll go hunt him down. You give us some food and one of them cows, and his people aren't crap. We ran into 6 of them punks,
Yeah.
and we took care of them. Just one rocket. It's like, if you didn't have that rocket, you'd all be dead.
And I actually wrote in my notes, oh, this is not good. Our heroes are getting cocky.
Yep. Dun, 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 dun.
Which, I think it goes back to, we were talking about some of the beginner mistakes that they made last week, and it was because they were getting too comfortable. And I think that we may see that hold forth with Negan as well, that they're just too comfortable and too cocky, and they may run into trouble as a result of that.
I told you, hey, you got a text message. Yeah.
No, I just got an update on Super Tuesday, which I'm just trying to ignore.
So yeah, I thought that they're going to die, man. I'm telling you. I told you there's going to be about 4 people, big names, that die. And it's shaping up. Glenn, Abe, Daryl.
I agree. I think there's going to be a bloodbath. I looked at some of the new characters that were introduced to us in the Hilltop, and I thought, okay, how many of these characters are going to become people that are familiar, people that are part of our new crew, people that take the place of the survivors that we lose?
I just made another bold prediction in my head as you were talking through that.
Go for it.
So, bold prediction with no foundation to this whatsoever. As our group goes to hunt Negan, Negan is sending him and his main crew to Hilltop. They both torch each other's home base. They come back to find Negan finds the place in ruins, and the Hilltop is in ruins. And then whoever's left from Hilltop goes back to Alexandria, and they go, oh crap, Negan's going to come find us next.
Nah, I don't think so.
No? Yeah. That was a little hair trigger. I might have just treaded into hurting my win percentage here on bold prediction.
Well, Thomas Reese is our numbers guy, right? So we'll have him keep an eye on it for us.
He needs to be my statistician. He needs to keep me on this stuff.
So some other stuff that I saw that I kind of threw into the rotting potpourri section is I thought that Abe's whole obsession about Maggie and Glenn having a baby was really kind of trippy, and I just thought he was such a dog for not just dealing with Rosita, getting it over with, getting the thing with Sasha out in the open. And I feel like that was really his whole journey on this episode.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the things that's like, really, dude? Like, I get it. Real world scenario, I get it. But there's only about 5 women in this town. You're going to get found out at some point. And I understand you have this new puppy crush on Sasha because you had to stay the night together in this building. But you've also been with Rosita for like 2 or 3 years.
Right.
She's also a badass in her own right.
And the women of the town are going to say, okay, you can't have Rosita, you can't have Sasha, and by the way, you don't get anything else.
Yeah, and here's Daryl being like, man, come on, you got 2 now?
I don't know. I thought the whole thing with Abe was really interesting, and then I thought the whole thing at the end where he was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I was like, no, you're dead. You're totally dead.
Well, that his moment was when he grabbed that one survivor and was going to kill him. And that survivor was like, the only thing when he was getting ready to stab me, the only thing I could see was my wife who died at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So when he was getting choked, all he could see was somebody. We all assume, so here's my brain teaser. We all assume that he's seen Sasha.
That was my assumption.
What if he's seen his wife?
It's possible. I mean, that would certainly lead more down the road to his death.
What if he was just like, this is what I thought I wanted. I thought I wanted Sasha now. But in that moment, I just seen my wife and my daughter.
Yeah.
And I realized none of this makes a damn bit of difference.
So you know what? That would actually make it okay for me. That would make it a little better for me.
It would save his character a little bit for you, wouldn't it?
It would. It absolutely would. Which is kind of sad, but I'm admitting it openly.
So when Abe dies here in the next couple episodes, how is Eugene going to take it? I think Eugene will take it Abe's death the hardest.
I think he will and he won't because I think it's going to be hard on him, but I think it also allows Eugene to become even more his own person.
Hmm.
He's no longer the Eugene that Abe thought he was.
Right, but Eugene has only known him.
This is true. I mean, really, the only other person he's got a real connection to is Rosita.
What if, what if, what if it's like the total like high school girl thing where Rosita finds out about Sasha and Abe, and then she goes and does. Why can I not think of his name now?
Eugene.
Eugene. Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
What if she goes and does that? And it's just like this revenge smut on The Walking Dead.
I think there's some real possibility there.
And then Daryl's still like, "What the hell, man?"
They killed Beth, and I can't figure Carol out. What the hell?
What the hell's going on here? So, that was one of my questions there. Did Abe see his wife? Because to me, that would be that character redemption of him going down this thing and, you know, screwing around and doing all this stuff in a very small community in a very bad time.
Mm-hmm.
That would, to me, would be like his character redemption, and then that would make me feel bad at his death.
That also makes me understand a little more why all of a sudden he's very approving to Maggie and Glenn when they show the picture around of the baby. Whereas before he was really questioning Glenn and he was like, double glove.
Yeah, I put on my galoshes. Did you mean to make, when you were pouring that Bisquick, did you mean to make pancakes?
Was that just an image or what? That was a classic Abe moment.
So one of my last things here in the Rotten Potpourri, which is funny because I'm on a Mac, and I put, how long is too long of vegan story arc? It auto-corrected Negan to vegan.
Oh.
So this is an open discussion, and please out there in Facebook land, let us know what you think. So this is something for everybody to get involved in here. I know that the comic book story arc of Negan is a very large one. However, I only want this to be through the end of the season, and maybe one or two into next, and then we're done. I do not want a Governor full season of this bad guy. I can't deal with it. I literally
all right, you guys,
cannot deal with it.
And he's threatening to jump ship if this happens, so we've got to let Nicotero and Gimple know this cannot happen.
Yeah. And I'm very serious when I say that, because that is just going to, it's going to kill me. It is going to kill me. I don't know if I can get through an entire season, next season, of nothing but Negan.
Well, you know, and as you and I talked about before we turned on the recording, I think that your observation about Terminus was very accurate. That was a storyline that they could have drawn out and that they could have really made into an interesting storyline with more episodes, and they finished it very quickly. Yeah. So are they going to do the same thing with Negan? I don't know. You know, it's a big arc in the source material, but I don't know.
Yeah. So earlier I was like, man, I wish they just would have done Terminus for about 2 or 3 more episodes, because like there were so many things when they were like running through Terminus, and it was just one of them half-second shots where you see this place, it's all fenced in, and it's all these body parts that are out sun drying. Mm-hmm. You know, it's all like torsos and stuff, and like they had those like seance circles where they remembered all the people who they killed to eat, and like there was some real depth to what was really going on here, and they had this system of radio calls and just all this neat functioning stuff.
And they had such a bureaucracy around it that held it together.
Yes. And they just, rightfully so, annihilate everybody, and then we're done here. And it's just like, there was so much, literally, wink, wink, meat to that storyline, and it was gone. And my fear is that this Negan storyline turns into a governor situation and just makes me want to stop.
I hope this is not the moment where they lose the fan base. I mean, it disappoints
7
me
seasons it will be.
right. And it does disappoint me to hear you talk about jumping ship, not just because I love podcasting with you, but also because I think that if you lose someone who is so diehard that they're willing to spend a couple of hours a week doing this, that's a big loss to the series, and that really indicates where the fan base might be going.
And I don't think my thoughts are too far off from other people. So hopefully everyone out there listening, just swing by the Facebook page, just
Yeah.
and post on when the episode posts, just comment right on that thread and just say, 5 episodes or full season Negan or end of this season Negan. That's my hope, is that we get it. And so this is something we talked about. When do you think we're going to see Negan? I think that we're not. This next episode, in the previews for next week, they showed everybody talking to Alexandria, and then they showed them like going through room in a hallway. I think
I don't think we're getting him next episode.
No, I think that going through the hallway is literally going to be the last 5 seconds of next week's episode. And this coming episode, number 12, is going to be just politics.
Maybe you'll get your answer about Morgan and Carol. Maybe they'll dive back into
I think we'll get the Carol and Morgan, because on the on the Talking Dead they showed the stuff, and the look on Morgan's face was just like, you've got to be kidding me. We're gonna go kill people right now? Really? We're gonna go kill people right now? And it's like, yeah, buddy, strap in. Here we go.
So I will tell people, of course, this is like telling somebody not to open their Christmas present early and then telling them where it is. But don't go look at IMDb, because I looked there tonight for some information about this episode, and there was definitely some stuff that I considered spoilery in terms of when we might actually see Negan.
Hopefully he's done at the end of the season.
I don't think he's going to be done at the end of the season. I do think that we are going to have a big death, and I think we're going to have a big moment, and people are going to be like, oh my god, who's this Negan character? But I don't think he's done at the end of the season. I think they're going to take him into next season. How far, I don't know, but I do think they're going to take him into next season.
I am getting excited for Fear the Walking Dead again.
Yeah, I'm going to be in Hawaii, I think, for the second episode of Fear the Walking Dead, so hopefully I have cable. I'll have my computer with me, so...
Yeah, the more I see of those previews, and like there was one shot where they were like running into the ocean and all the walkers were behind them, like walking into the ocean. It's just like, oh my god, this is so awesome.
I do think it's going to be the season that makes or breaks Fear.
Yeah.
So totally. I'm really interested to see how they deal with it. I hope they give us something great. They have the potential to give us something great.
I think so. I think just the sheer experience of the last 6 seasons on The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I don't think that, we've talked about this, it's not going to be a farm season.
Right. And they would be foolish if it was.
Yeah, it's going to be more of like a season 4 where we're moving things down the road. We blew up the prison. Everything's kind of going crazy again. We're on the road again. We're struggling. Yeah. We can't figure out up from down. We're learning about things now. And I think it's going to be more of that, not the farm.
So I did want to say a couple more rotting potpourri things, and then I thought maybe we could look at some of the feedback that we've got. This is the first time that we hear Negan's group referred to as the Saviors.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Interestingly enough, they were talking about how the Hilltop people were talking about how he beat a 16-year-old to death in front of them. And the quote was, we needed to understand right off the bat. Yep. And I thought, oh, that's some foreshadowing.
Yep. And that was, but I liked how they put that in, Jesus was like, they started off by killing one of us right off the bat. To teach us a lesson. He was a 16-year-old boy.
The other thing is Maggie has a nice moment of foreshadowing because they're talking about how they're going to offer their services as basically assassins to go and get rid of Negan. And she says, it's going to cost us something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she is very clearly seeing that this is not going to be a good trade for the survivors.
Right. I do think when she made that deal, full well knowing that people are going to die.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think she knows how potentially significant that could be because I still think Glenn is very much in danger, but I absolutely think that that she knows that there's going to be bad stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right. Who's out there in Facebook land keeping us busy?
Well, so you've had some good interchange with Art Mora on the private messages. You want to take a look at those?
I don't have it pulled up. I'm not allowed to talk about private stuff on here.
Oh,
Those are private messages between
that's so
two
funny.
people
Well,
exchanging strangers. Okay.
I'll be terrible. I will be terrible, and I will expose it then. So he suggests that maybe Michonne might be the person that Negan kills, and we had talked
Oh yeah, yeah.
we had talked last week about Thomas Reese's prediction that maybe it's Carol who's going to go. But Art's observation, Art Mora, was that Michonne had that conversation with Carl about taking care of each other if they turned, and then the love thing with Rick. These two things might point to her, and she's black, so that's the third thing, but the show might be over that. And you said, I hope not. I think we've got a good dynamic with her and Rick, which can prove lethal for Rick.
Yes.
So I have to say, there was definitely a moment in this episode where there was a very clear moment of shared leadership between Michonne and Rick. And I think that has some really good potential. So I actually hope that nothing happens to her. I hope that they're able to develop that shared leadership between the two of them more, especially if we're looking at Maggie potentially becoming a part of the Hilltop. They're going to need that balance in Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. And you said you thought that she was in the immune category, but Carol could definitely go. And then Art said from the last episode, I agree with you. Abraham's probably going to get snuffed, probably taking bleep so-and-so's place with the bat. I'm not going to spoil it for people who don't know. They focused on him a bit too much and some of the emotional stuff he has. He kind of let that other dude strangle him until Daryl pulled him off with a crack of the arm. They made the mistake of taking that other dude with them to Negan's. He's full of betrayal.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree.
I think they're talking about the dude who was going out on the runs, right? They're not talking about Jesus. They're talking about the guy who came back.
Yep.
Okay. And then he also shared some interesting stuff late today. He said that Samuel Benedict, who's the guy who played the wolf, is in an indie movie called Asthma, and it sounds like it's pretty intense. He said it's kind of weird and it's artsy, but he kind of feels like it's almost pre-apocalypse and it's the wolf's story. So it sounds like it would be a good watch. And he said the actress that played Jane is co-starring with him. Who is Jane? Remind me. I can't remember who she was.
I have no idea.
Art, you're going to have to help us out. I almost want to say that Jane is the girl who was with the fellow who stole Daryl's bike, but I'm not sure. So you got to help us out. Who's Jane? That's your job this week, Art. All right, and then just looking at a couple of other things on our page, there was a message from Beth Eikenberry Belden. Any relationship?
Maybe.
So she said, awesome. The very first scene with Abraham and Sasha, guess what I noticed? The walker was gone from the car. So tell me about that.
I'm not sure. I think she is just being a whole lot more attentive to detail. She started listening, so I'm like, look, hey, here's what I'm doing. You got to start listening to this. It's going to be cool because she's watched Walking Dead forever.
Okay,
and
cool.
She's listening to our conversations, and the things we see, she typically doesn't. So now she is just starting to be a whole lot more aware of the surroundings. So as people are doing things and clearing things, she's picking up that, okay, they've been here before, they're doing this, they're clearing things, and it's going down. So she's talking about just that attention to detail that she's learning.
So we have a statistician and we have a third eye.
Yeah.
That's
all
cool.
over the place.
Let's see what else. I think Rob put up a post saying that he's just launched a playlist on the Southgate Media Group YouTube channel. And right now they're putting up their catalog of podcast episodes. But in the future, they plan on adding some YouTube-only original content.
Yes.
So that looks pretty awesome. And Art put up some... Or Art, listen to me. Kirk put up some new art for us.
Yeah, some new tribute art. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Totally dig it. Maybe he'll do one of us.
Oh, man. Give me a few less pounds. He's going to have to shave off some poundage.
Maybe he'll give you pink hair and I'll be the zombified 30-something.
So I have to tell you, speaking of Kirk and his art, I purchased a copy of one of the posters that he did for Walker Stalker, New York, New Jersey. And it's a reproduction of the soldier from World War II kissing the nurse in Times Square.
Oh, sure.
But they're both zombies.
Ah, cool.
So I got that framed, and it's got this awesome red frame around it. And then I purchased the tribute for Coda, which is the episode where Beth died.
Mm-hmm.
And they both just look fantastic. I can hardly wait to get them up on the walls. I just picked them up yesterday from the framer. So
cool.
Little bit of props for Kirk there. One more thing that I did want to say about the Facebook page is that I just got my Michonne and Tyrese figurines from the Eagle Moss collection. So I put pictures of them up, and they are super cool.
Yeah, head out there, swing out to the Facebook page, drop in, say hi. Even if you're not, just swing out there. Just look for Biters. It's out there. We're out there. We see your post. We'll respond in an hour or two if we can. So just let us know what you're up to. Let us know how many cool things you've seen. Comment on what's out there. Check out Kirk's sweet killer art. And let us know how long you think Negan should be around for.
Yeah, definitely weigh in on the Negan thing, because I'm curious to know what people are thinking.
All right. Well, hey, I don't have much else. Do you?
I think I'm good. I just wanted to make sure that I shared those couple of other things from the Rotting Potpourri. And so...
let's take it one dead day at a time. Oh, that's terrible.
No, I swear to God, we're getting better. We really are. All right, have a great week.
All right.
And we'll talk to you next week.
Peace.